Tonight, we journey to the stars, not as they are, but as they will be, in a future born of ambition and discovery. Our story begins in the year 2183, a new age for the human race. It has been less than 40 years since humanity discovered the secrets of faster-than-light travel, ancient technology left behind by a mysterious, long-extinct race known as the Protheans. This discovery, a mass relay hidden within the ice of Charon, Pluto's moon, catapulted our species onto the galactic stage. We were the newcomers, the ambitious apes who had stumbled into a universe already teeming with ancient civilizations and long-established politics. We expanded quickly, eagerly, founding colonies and building a fleet that, while still small, was powerful and respected. At the forefront of this expansion, this bold new era, was the Systems Alliance, the military and political face of humanity. And at the very tip of that spear was a vessel unlike any other, the SSV Normandy. The Normandy was a prototype stealth frigate, a joint human and Turian venture, a symbol of a fragile but growing cooperation. It was a ghost, capable of moving unseen through the cosmos, a hunter in the dark. Its commander was a human of exceptional skill and reputation, an individual whose past was a tapestry of heroism and hard choices, but whose future was still unwritten. Their name was Commander Shepard. But before we journey on, feel free to like and subscribe, but only if you enjoy this quiet space and you'd like to hear more told in this way. Our story finds Shepard aboard the Normandy, cutting a silent path through the void towards a human colony on the edge of the Attican Traverse, a world named Eden Prime. It was, by all accounts, a simple mission, a shakedown cruise for the new ship, and the delivery of a recently unearthed Prothean beacon to a research team on the planet's surface. Aboard the Normandy was a Spectre, a member of the Citadel Council's elite special ops agents, an elite Turian operative named Nihilus. His presence was a quiet honor, a sign that humanity, and Commander Shepard specifically, were being considered for a greater role in the galaxy. The mission was to observe, to evaluate, but the universe, as it often does, had other plans. As the Normandy approached Eden Prime, a garbled distress call echoed through the comms, a message of terror and confusion, a voice crying out about an attack, about a ship of impossible scale descending from the sky. The shakedown cruise was over. A long and desperate war was about to begin. The descent to Eden Prime was tense, a stark contrast to the quiet cruise it was meant to be. The sky over the colony was filled with a sickly orange haze, the ground scarred by wreckage and fire. Commander Shepard led a small team to the surface, including the Turian Spectre, Nihilus, and a human biotic, Kaiden Alenko. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and death. This was no simple colonist uprising. The attackers were synthetic, bipedal machines of a design no one had ever seen before. They were the Geth. According to galactic history, the Geth were a cautionary tale, a rogue AI race that had driven their creators, the Quarians, into exile 3 centuries ago. They had never been seen this far into Citadel space, never shown such aggression. As Shepard's team pushed through the burning colony, fighting pockets of Geth resistance, they found the first of the human survivors. A young Alliance Marine, Gunnery Chief Ashley Williams, her squad wiped out, holding the line alone against the synthetic tide. She was a soldier, tough and capable, but her eyes held the terror of what she had witnessed, a massacre on an unimaginable scale. She joined Shepard's team, her rifle adding to their desperate push towards the Prothean beacon's dig site. But something was wrong. The Geth were not acting alone. Their movements were too coordinated, too strategic. They were being led. Nihilus, the Spectre, had gone on ahead, scouting the perimeter with a lethal grace. He intended to flank the enemy, to understand their leadership and tactics. It was the last time Shepard would see him alive. They found him near the spaceport, executed, a single, clean shot to the back of the head. It was a bitter, shocking discovery. Spectres were the galaxy's most elite agents, near impossible to kill. Standing over the body was another Turian, his armor marked with the insignia of a Spectre. His name was Saren Arterius, the Council's top agent, and now a traitor and a murderer. He spoke briefly, his voice dripping with a cold, fanatical certainty. Before a massive ship, a vessel of terrifying organic design, lifted from the ground behind him and soared into the smoke-filled sky. Saren was gone. The Geth were merely his army. The real threat was something far older and far more sinister. And its target was the Prothean beacon. With Saren gone and the Geth in retreat, Shepard's team finally reached the dig site. The Prothean beacon was there, an artifact of smooth obsidian metal humming with a strange energy. It was damaged, clearly sabotaged during the attack. As Commander Shepard moved closer to inspect the device, it flared to life, a pulse of energy erupting from its core. The commander was lifted from the ground, caught in a torrent of raw information, a cascade of images and sounds flooding their mind. It was a vision of chaos and slaughter, a symphony of screams. Shepard saw images of towering sentient machines, colossal beings of metal and light, descending upon a world of soaring silver towers. They saw a people, elegant and advanced, being systematically exterminated. They saw the Reapers. The vision was a psychic echo, a warning left behind 50,000 years ago by the Protheans, a desperate message from a dead race. It was a vision of their own extinction. The experience was agonizing, a psychic scream that left Shepard unconscious. They awoke in the Normandy's medbay, their mind scarred by fragmented nightmares of a coming apocalypse. The mission was a catastrophic failure. A Spectre was dead, a priceless artifact was destroyed, and a human colony was in ruins. And at the center of it all was Saren, the Council's most trusted Spectre. The only other person who witnessed Saren's treachery was a dock worker named Powell, whose testimony was shaky at best. Shepard knew what they saw, what they had experienced, but the evidence was circumstantial. It was a soldier's word against the word of a galactic hero. This was the story they brought back to the Citadel, the vast, ancient space station that served as the capital of the galactic community. It was a story of betrayal, of synthetic armies, and of a threat so profound it seemed like a madman's fantasy. The path forward was clear, but impossibly steep. Shepard had to convince the Citadel Council, the governing body of the galaxy, that their top agent was a traitor, that the Geth had returned, and that an ancient mythical race of sentient machines was poised to extinguish all life. They were no longer just a soldier. They were a messenger, a Cassandra bearing a warning that no one wanted to believe. The fight for Eden Prime was over, but the fight for the truth had just begun. The journey to the Citadel was a somber one. The SSV Normandy, once a symbol of human potential, now felt like a vessel carrying a terrible burden. Commander Shepard, Captain Anderson, and Ambassador Udina prepared to present their case, a case built on the word of a traumatized soldier and a dock worker's testimony. The Citadel itself was a breathtaking sight, a massive, 5-armed space station, home to trillions of beings from hundreds of worlds. It was the heart of galactic civilization, a place of law, order, and deeply entrenched bureaucracy. Upon their arrival, they were met with immediate and unyielding skepticism. The Citadel Council was composed of 3 individuals, each representing one of the galaxy's most powerful species: the wise and diplomatic Asari, the calculating and scientific Solarians, and the disciplined, militaristic Turians. To them, Saren Arterius was more than a Spectre. He was a legend, an agent who had upheld the Council's authority for decades. The idea of him murdering a fellow Spectre and leading a rogue Geth army was not just unlikely, it was unthinkable. Ambassador Udina, ever the politician, argued Shepard's case with a frustrated passion, but the Council remained unmoved. The Turian counselor, in particular, was dismissive. He viewed the incident as a purely human affair, a military operation gone wrong, perhaps even a fabrication to cover up incompetence. He suggested Saren's presence was merely to clean up a mess made by the Alliance. They demanded irrefutable proof, something more substantial than a fragmented vision and the word of an upstart human. The hearing was a disaster. Saren himself appeared via hologram, calm and collected, flatly denying everything. He painted Shepard as an unreliable witness, traumatized by combat. He twisted the truth with the skill of a master manipulator, leaving the Council placated and Shepard's accusations looking like the desperate finger-pointing of a species trying to punch above its weight. The case was dismissed. Shepard and Anderson were ordered to stand down, their path to justice blocked by a wall of political disbelief. It was a crushing blow, a moment that made the fight seem hopeless. The Reapers were coming, and the people in charge refused to even acknowledge the smoke on the horizon. But Captain Anderson, a veteran who had seen his own ambitions thwarted by politics, was not ready to give up. He told Shepard to work outside the system, to find the proof the Council needed, no matter the cost. Frustrated but not defeated, Commander Shepard took Captain Anderson's advice to heart. If the official channels were closed, they would have to carve their own path. The Citadel was a city of secrets, a place where information was a currency more valuable than credits. Someone, somewhere, had to know something about Saren's activities. The first lead came from Anderson himself. He had a contact, a C-Sec officer named Garrus Vakarian, a Turian detective who had been investigating Saren long before the Eden Prime incident. Garrus was a rogue element within the Citadel's rigid security force. He was a brilliant investigator, but he was tired of the red tape, the political compromises that allowed the guilty to walk free. He believed Shepard, but his own investigation had hit a wall. He knew Saren was dirty, but he couldn't prove it. This shared purpose, this mutual frustration with a system that protected the powerful, forged an immediate bond between the human soldier and the Turian officer. Garrus, choosing to abandon his C-Sec career for a cause he believed in, became the first to officially join Shepard's quest. Their investigation led them into the seedier corners of the Citadel, a world away from the pristine halls of the Presidium. They chased down leads, interrogated informants, and pieced together a puzzle of shadows and whispers. The trail eventually pointed towards a shadowy broker of information known as the Shadow Broker, who was believed to be working with Saren. The broker's agent on the Citadel was a man named Fist, the paranoid and belligerent owner of a nightclub in the station's lower wards. Getting to Fist would be difficult. He was well protected and deeply suspicious. To even get a meeting, Shepard needed leverage. That leverage came in the form of a Krogan mercenary, a bounty hunter with a reputation for being both incredibly effective and incredibly violent. His name was Urdnot Rex. He had been hired by the Shadow Broker to eliminate Fist, who had recently betrayed the broker. Shepard found the Krogan spoiling for a fight with C-Sec, a force of nature barely contained. Seeing a mutual interest, Shepard convinced Rex to join forces.
The team was growing, a small collection of outcasts and renegades united by a single goal: to expose the truth that the Council refused to see. Their next stop was Fist's nightclub, Chora's Den, where they hoped to find the final piece of the puzzle.
With Garrus providing tactical insight and Rex providing intimidating presence, Shepard's team made their way to Chora's Den. The nightclub was a den of lowlifes and criminals, but Fist was buried deep inside, protected by layers of hired guns. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Rex, in particular, reveled in the chaos, a joyful warrior finally unleashed. They fought their way through the club and cornered the terrified owner in his office. Under duress, Fist confessed everything. He had indeed betrayed the Shadow Broker. He had made a deal with Saren to set a trap for a young Quarian who had managed to acquire data directly implicating the rogue Spectre. The Quarian had a recording of a conversation between Saren and another figure discussing the attack on Eden Prime. She believed she was meeting a contact who would help her, but Fist had sent her into an ambush. The deal was going down at that very moment. There was still time to save her. Leaving Fist to the mercies of Urdnot Rex, who had his own contract to fulfill, Shepard and Garrus raced against time to find the Quarian. They arrived in a dark alleyway just as Saren's assassins were closing in on their target. A frantic firefight ensued, with Shepard and Garrus fighting desperately to protect the lone figure. They succeeded, and the Quarian, a young woman in a full environmental suit, introduced herself as Tali-Zora Nar-Rhea. She was on her pilgrimage, a rite of passage for young Quarians, a journey to bring something of value back to their migrant fleet. The data she had stumbled upon was more valuable than she could have ever imagined. It was a clean audio recording pulled from the memory core of a Geth trooper. On it, Saren spoke with a chilling clarity. He discussed the success of the Eden Prime attack, and he spoke to another, a powerful Asari matriarch named Benezia. They spoke of the Reapers, of a conduit, and of the eventual return of the ancient machine gods. It was the smoking gun. It was the irrefutable proof the Council demanded. Tali, grateful and recognizing the monumental importance of her discovery, pledged to join Shepard's cause, to see the mission through to its end. With the evidence in hand, Shepard returned to the Presidium, ready to confront the Council one last time. This time, the atmosphere in the Council chambers was different. The raw, undeniable evidence presented by Tali-Zora changed everything. The audio recording was played for the Council to hear. Saren's voice, calm and cruel, discussing the slaughter on Eden Prime. His words laced with a fanatical reverence for the Reapers. Matriarch Benezia's complicity was laid bare. There was no room for denial, no political maneuvering that could explain away the cold, hard truth of his treason. The Council was stunned into silence. The Turian counselor, once so dismissive, was forced to confront the reality that his species' greatest hero was its most monstrous villain. The Salarian counselor analyzed the data, confirming its authenticity. The Asari counselor listened with a grave sadness, acknowledging the involvement of one of her people's respected matriarchs. Saren Arterius was officially declared a rogue agent, a traitor to the Citadel and all galactic law. His Spectre status was revoked. In the same breath, the Council acknowledged their own failure. They had been blind, and their blindness had nearly allowed a catastrophe to unfold unchecked. They recognized that humanity, and Commander Shepard in particular, had been right all along. In a move that shocked the galactic community and sent ripples through the political landscape, they made a decision. They offered Commander Shepard a place among their ranks. They would make them the first human Spectre in history.
It was a monumental moment. A Spectre operates above the law, an agent of the Council's will, given the authority and resources to handle threats to galactic stability by any means necessary. For a human to be granted this power was unprecedented. It was a gesture of apology, an admission of trust, and a desperate necessity. Shepard was the only one who truly understood the nature of the threat. They were the only one who had seen the vision, who had faced Saren, who had pieced together the disparate clues. Commander Shepard accepted. They were no longer just an Alliance soldier. They were the Council's sword, their shield, their last, best hope. The hunt for Saren Arterius could now begin in earnest. With the authority of a Spectre was given command of the SSV Normandy and the freedom of the galaxy. The ship, once a symbol of human ambition, now became an instrument of galactic justice. Shepard's crew had grown from a small Alliance team into a diverse collection of specialists. Garrus, the Turian marksman and investigator. Rex, the Krogan battlemaster and mercenary. And Tali, the Quarian machinist and Geth expert. Together, they formed the core of a team that would have to do the impossible. Their mission was singular: hunt down Saren Arterius and stop him. But the galaxy is vast, and Saren's trail was fractured. The investigation pointed to three main leads, three worlds where Saren or his associates had been recently active. The choice of where to begin was Shepard's alone. The first lead pointed to the corporate-controlled world of Noveria, a frozen, lawless planet where Saren's ally, Matriarch Benezia, had last been seen at a corporate research facility. The second trail led to Pharos, a human colony in the Attican Traverse that had recently gone silent. The colonists of Zhu's Hope had reported strange activity, and Saren's Geth were believed to be involved. There were whispers of an ancient power on the planet, something Saren might be trying to control. The final lead was a personal one from Ambassador Udina.
He had information about an Asari scientist, an expert on the Protheans, named Dr. Lyara T. Sony. She was the daughter of matriarch Benezia, and she was currently on a dig in a volatile region of space known as the Artemis Tau Cluster. Udina believed she might have unique insight into her mother's actions, or even Saren himself. 3 planets, 3 leads. Each held a piece of the puzzle, a thread in the vast conspiracy Saren was weaving across the stars. Shepard stood before the Normandy's galaxy map, the fate of billions resting on their shoulders. They were a hunter, and their prey was the most dangerous man in the galaxy. The choices they made now would determine not only their own fate, but the fate of every living being. The quiet hum of the Normandy's engines was the only sound as the commander made their decision, setting a course for the first battlefield in a war that had been raging in the shadows for 50,000 years.
The Normandy cut through the void, its destination set for the Pharos system. The colony of Zoo's Hope had fallen silent, a worrying sign in a galaxy now on edge. Upon arrival, Shepard's team found not a scene of carnage as they had on Eden Prime, but something far more unsettling. The colonists were alive, but they were strange, their movements stiff, their eyes vacant. They spoke in unison, with a placid, unnerving calm, denying that anything was wrong. Yet, when their backs were turned, they would whisper pleas for help, their true consciousness fighting against some unseen control. A small group of survivors, led by a man named Phi Dan, explained the situation. The Geth had arrived, not with guns blazing, but with a quiet, insidious purpose. They had come from the nearby Exogeny corporate headquarters, a sprawling complex of abandoned labs and offices. It seemed the Geth were not interested in the colonists themselves, but in something buried deep beneath the colony. Something the colonists called the Thorian. The Exogeny Corporation had been studying this creature, a native life form of immense psychic power. It was ancient, perhaps millions of years old, a vast fungal intelligence that could control the minds of other beings through spores. The Geth, under Saren's command, were now trying to communicate with it, to learn its secrets. The colonists of Zoo's Hope were an unfortunate side effect, their minds caught in the Thorian's psychic net as it reacted to the Geth's intrusion. To stop the Geth, Shepard would have to confront this ancient intelligence. The path lay through the derelict Exogeny building, now swarming with Geth troopers and Krogan mercenaries hired by Saren. The fighting was fierce, a vertical battle up towering skyscrapers connected by precarious sky bridges. As they fought their way through the labs, they pieced together the grim truth of Exogeny's research. They had been intentionally exposing their own people to the Thorian's influence, studying its mind control capabilities for corporate gain. But the creature had grown too powerful, its influence spreading beyond their control.
Saren wasn't just here to talk. He was here to claim a weapon of immense power. After a grueling battle through the exogeny facility, Shepard's team finally reached the entrance to the Thorian's lair, deep in the foundations of the colony. The creature itself was a grotesque and awesome sight. It was not a single entity, but a vast, plant-like network of flesh and vine that filled a cavernous underground space. Its tendrils snaked around pillars of rock, and from its pulsating flesh it spawned defenders, mindless husks of Asari commandos, their bodies preserved and puppeteered by the ancient mind. Among them was a single green-skinned Asari who fought with a conscious ferocity. Her name was Shiala. She revealed that she was a former acolyte of Matriarch Benezia, sent by Saren to interface with the Thorian. It was through her that Saren had learned of the Prothean vision of the Reapers, the same vision that haunted Shepard's mind. The Thorian had absorbed this knowledge from Shiala, and now Saren wanted it back. He had come to learn everything the Protheans knew about the Reapers. The Thorian was too vast to be fought directly. To defeat it, Shepard had to sever its connection to the structure of the cavern, destroying the neural nodes that anchored it to the rock. It was a chaotic battle, fighting off waves of Thorian creepers and Asari clones while targeting the creature's weak points. With each node destroyed, the ancient being shrieked in psychic pain, its grip on the colonists above weakening. Finally, with the last node severed, the colossal creature collapsed, its ancient life extinguished. From its dying husk, the real Shiala emerged, freed from its control. In gratitude, she offered Shepard the gift of a cipher, a way to understand the fragmented data from the Prothean beacon. She shared the vision she had received from the Thorian, the same one Shepard had. It was another piece of the puzzle, a clearer glimpse into the apocalyptic future the Reapers promised. The colonists of Zoo's Hope were freed, their minds their own once more. Shepard had saved the colony, but more importantly, they had denied Saren a powerful weapon and gained a crucial key to deciphering the secrets of the past. The hunt continued, the trail now leading to the icy, corporate-run world of Noveria.
The journey to Noveria was a descent into a different kind of darkness. This was a world of ice and shadow, ruled not by governments, but by corporations. It was a place where ethical lines were blurred, and profit was the only law. The Normandy was forced to land at a commercial port, its crew subject to the planet's draconian security measures. Saren's ally, Matriarch Benezia, was here. She had been tracked to a remote research facility known as Peak 15. But getting there would require navigating a labyrinth of corporate intrigue. Shepard was immediately stonewalled by the local administrator, a paranoid and corrupt official named Analeus.
To gain a garage pass to leave the port and travel to Peak 15, Shepard had to play the corporate game. This meant choosing a side in a quiet war between Oneleus and an internal affairs agent from his own company who was trying to expose his corruption. Shepard could either help the agent bring Oneleus down, or work with the corrupt administrator to frame the agent. It was a world of gray morality, where every choice had a consequence, and every ally had a hidden agenda. Once the pass was secured, the journey to Peak 15 began, a treacherous drive across a windswept, frozen landscape in the Mako, the team's all-terrain vehicle. Geth patrols harried them along the way, a clear sign they were on the right path. The facility itself was in lockdown, a blizzard raging around its isolated peaks. It was clear something had gone terribly wrong. Fighting their way inside, Shepard and their squad found the research station in chaos. It was infested with Geth, but also with something else. Strange insect-like creatures scuttled through the vents and corridors, attacking anything that moved. These were Rochni, an alien species thought to be extinct for over 1,000 years. They were a legendary terror, a hive-minded race that had almost consumed the galaxy in an ancient war. It seemed the scientists at Peak 15, in their hubris, had found a surviving Rochni egg and hatched a new queen, hoping to breed an army of organic drones. Saren and Benicia were not just here for research. They were here to claim another army, one that had nearly conquered the galaxy once before.
The atmosphere inside Peak 15 was thick with tension and the chittering sounds of the Rochni. The facility was a maze of labs, maintenance tunnels, and containment bays, a testament to science gone horribly wrong. Shepard and their team had to reactivate the facility's core systems, fighting through both Geth destroyers and swarms of Rachni workers to reach the heart of the complex where matriarch Benicia was located. They found her in the main laboratory, surrounded by Asari commandos and Geth troopers. Benicia was a powerful biotic, a matriarch of immense age and wisdom. But her eyes held a flicker of something else, a conflict, a struggle against an unseen force. She was not entirely in control of her own actions. The battle was intense, Benicia's biotic power warping the very air around them. But as Shepard's team pressed the attack, her will began to fracture. In moments of clarity, she fought against her indoctrination, the subtle, insidious mind control exerted by Saren's flagship, the Reaper known as Sovereign. She revealed the truth in broken whispers. She had joined Saren willingly at first, believing his power could be controlled, used for good. But she had underestimated Sovereign's influence. Over time, its whispers had eroded her free will, turning her into a puppet. She had come to Peak 15 to retrieve the location of the Mu relay,
a long-lost mass relay that led to the Terminus systems and to the lost Prothean world of Elos. This was Saren's ultimate goal.
With her last ounce of strength, Benazia freed herself from Sovereign's control. But the effort was too much. She died on the cold floor of the lab, a tragic victim of the very power she sought to command. Her death, however, did not end the crisis. Deep in the facility, the newly hatched Rachni Queen was broadcasting a song of pain and confusion, a psychic cry that drove her children to madness. Shepard descended into the lowest levels and confronted the massive, intelligent Queen. She pleaded for her species' survival, promising to remain peaceful, to return to the dark spaces between the stars, and remember the mercy she was shown. Shepard was faced with a choice of galactic consequence: to exterminate a species for the second time, ensuring they could never again threaten the galaxy, or to trust the Queen's promise and set her free, an act of compassion that could have unforeseen repercussions for generations to come. With leads from Feros and Noveria pointing towards Saren's interest in Prothean history, a new piece of intelligence emerged. A Solarian reconnaissance team had located a major base of operations for Saren on the lush, tropical world of Vermeer. The Normandy set a course immediately, arriving to find a world that was beautiful but deadly. Saren's facility was heavily defended, and the Solarian team, led by a captain named Kirahe, was planning a full-scale assault. Shepard met with Kirahe and his soldiers, formulating a plan. Kirahe's team would create a diversion, drawing the bulk of the Geth forces away, while Shepard's squad infiltrated the main facility from a different angle. It was a risky plan, relying on precise timing and coordination. As they prepared for the assault, Rex, the Krogan mercenary on the team, discovered the true purpose of Saren's research here. The facility was a laboratory dedicated to curing the Genophage. The Genophage was a biological weapon created by the Solarians and deployed by the Turians centuries ago to end the Krogan rebellions. It didn't make the Krogans sterile, but it drastically reduced their birth rates, crippling their ability to replenish their numbers and effectively ending their civilization. Saren, Rex realized, was on the verge of reversing it. He planned to breed a new army of Krogan, loyal only to him, an unstoppable force to unleash upon the galaxy. This revelation caused a crisis. Rex, seeing a potential future for his people, a future free from the curse of the Genophage, refused to allow the facility to be destroyed. He argued, passionately and violently, that this was their one chance. Shepard was faced with a tense standoff. They had to talk Rex down,
to convince him that an army of Krogan bred as slaves for a madman was not the salvation his people deserved. It was a moment that could end in words or in bloodshed, a test of leadership and persuasion that would determine if the Krogan warrior would continue to fight by Shepard's side or die on the shores of Vermeer, a victim of desperate hope.
After either reasoning with Rex or being forced to end his life, Shepard proceeded with the infiltration of Saren's base. The facility was a sprawling complex of labs and containment cells, a grim testament to the rogue Spectre's ambition. Within its walls, Shepard discovered something truly disturbing. Saren was not just breeding Krogan. He was experimenting with indoctrination on a massive scale, studying and refining the mind control process used by the Reapers. He was turning captured Solarians and his own followers into mindless, fanatical husks. Deep inside the main laboratory, Shepard found another Prothean beacon, intact and active. This was the source of Saren's advanced knowledge. As the commander approached, the beacon activated, but this time the vision was different. It wasn't an echo or a warning. It was a direct conversation. A voice spoke, cold and vast, not from the beacon, but through it. It was the voice of Sovereign, Saren's flagship. In that moment, the galaxy's greatest mystery was solved with terrifying clarity. Sovereign was not a Prothean vessel, nor was it merely a ship controlled by Saren. Sovereign was a Reaper. It revealed the truth of the cycle. The Reapers were the creators of the mass relays and the Citadel. They allowed organic life to flourish along a path they dictated. And then, every 50,000 years, they would return from dark space to harvest any civilization advanced enough to use their technology, leaving only the primitive to begin the cycle anew. The Protheans were not the first to fall. They were just the most recent in an endless galactic slaughter. Sovereign explained that Saren was merely a useful pawn, the first of its new servants. Its goal was to use Saren to activate the Citadel, which was not a station, but a massive, dormant mass relay, a backdoor into the galaxy for the entire Reaper fleet waiting in the void. The Geth, who worshipped the Reapers as gods, were their willing foot soldiers. The truth was more horrifying than any myth. This was not a war against a rogue Spectre. It was a war against gods. A war that had been lost time and time again by countless civilizations for millions of years. The conversation with Sovereign was cut short as Saren himself appeared via hologram, taunting Shepard with their powerlessness. But the mission was clear. Saren's base and his research into the Genophage had to be destroyed. Captain Kira Hayes' team had planted a nuclear device at the heart of the facility, and it was time to detonate it. As Shepard's team fought their way back out, a new crisis emerged.
The anti-aircraft towers protecting the bomb site were still active, and Geth forces were closing in on 2 separate locations. At one site, Ashley Williams was working to disable a tower. At the other, Kaiden Alenko was protecting the bomb itself. The Geth were overrunning both positions simultaneously. There was only time to save one of them. Over the comms, Shepard heard their desperate final reports. Both were under heavy fire, their positions about to be overwhelmed. The Normandy could only land at one location for evacuation before the bomb detonated. A choice had to be made. It was an impossible, heart-wrenching decision. Who would be saved and who would be left behind to die in the fire of a nuclear blast? It was a commander's worst nightmare, a choice with no right answer, only sacrifice. Shepard gave the order, a name spoken with a heavy heart. They raced to the evacuation point, pulling either Ashley or Kaiden aboard the Normandy just as the Geth closed in. From the ship's cargo bay, they watched as a brilliant, silent flash consumed the horizon. The base was destroyed. Saren's cloning facility was gone. But the cost was immense. A friend, a loyal soldier, was lost forever. Their sacrifice, a stark and painful reminder of the stakes of this war. The mood aboard the Normandy was somber. The victory on Virmire, tasting only of ash and loss. But there was no time to grieve. The final pieces of Saren's plan were falling into place, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The revelations on Virmire were staggering, shifting the entire context of the war. This was no longer just a hunt for a traitor. It was a race against time to prevent a galactic apocalypse. The Reaper, known as Sovereign, had laid its plan bare. It needed to get to the Citadel to manually open the relay and summon its brethren from dark space. And the key to doing that, the path that Saren was now desperately seeking, was on the long-lost Prothean world of Ilos. This information came from the cipher Shiala had gifted Shepard on Pharos, which finally allowed them to piece together the fragmented data from the Eden Prime beacon. The vision became clear, showing a path through the treacherous Terminus systems via the long-lost Mu relay to this mythical planet of ruins. Ilos was the Protheans' final refuge, their last secret stronghold, where they made their final stand against the Reapers 50,000 years ago. Whatever Saren was looking for, whatever tool or knowledge he needed to seize control of the Citadel, it was hidden there. Shepard presented this information to the Council, a full briefing on the Reapers, their cycle of extinction, and Saren's plan. But it was a truth too vast, too terrifying for them to accept. They saw the Reapers as a myth, Sovereign as a unique and powerful Geth dreadnought, and Saren as a megalomaniac who had adopted a convenient legend to inspire his followers. They refused to risk a war with the Geth and the Terminus systems by sending a fleet to Ilos. In a move of staggering short-sightedness, they ordered Shepard and the Normandy to stand down. They were grounded. Confined to the Citadel docks, it seemed the mission was over, a failure at the final hurdle. But Captain Anderson, now an aide to Ambassador Udina, refused to let it end this way. He met with Shepard in secret, concocting a desperate, illegal plan. He would use his authority to slice the Citadel's lockdown systems, creating a small window of opportunity for the Normandy to escape. It was an act of treason, an end to his own distinguished career, but it was the only way. With a final, knowing glance, Anderson sent Shepard on their way. The Normandy, under illegal orders and against the wishes of the Council, lifted from the Citadel and jumped towards the Mu Relay, a lone ship on a desperate final gambit to save a galaxy that refused to believe it was in danger.
The journey through the Mass Relay was a leap into the unknown, a passage into a region of space untouched for millennia. The planet Ilos was a ghost world, a planet of silent, overgrown ruins and deep, cavernous archives. The scale of the Prothean city was breathtaking, a silent testament to a civilization far more advanced than any in the current cycle. Saren had already been here. The tracks of his Geth forces scarred the ancient plazas. He was ahead, and Shepard's team had to push through the remaining Geth defenders to catch up. They followed his trail deep beneath the planet's surface, into a sealed cryogenic facility. This was the Protheans' last sanctuary, a place where a handful of their brightest minds had survived the initial Reaper onslaught. Here, Shepard made the most profound discovery of the mission. They found Vigil, the last surviving Prothean, a sentient artificial intelligence that had maintained the facility for 50,000 years. Vigil revealed the final terrible truth. The Reaper's greatest weapon was the Citadel itself. It was the head of their snake. The Keepers, the silent insectoid race that maintained the station, were not native. They were a bioengineered species, slaves to the Reapers. At the start of each harvest, the Reapers would send a signal to the Keepers, compelling them to open the Citadel relay and allow the invasion to begin. The Protheans of Ilos had discovered this truth too late. But they had enacted a desperate plan. The scientists on Ilos had created a back door onto the Citadel, a miniature mass relay they called the Conduit. Their plan was to use it to get a small team onto the station after the Reaper signal had been sent, to manually override the lockdown and warn the next cycle. They had failed, but their plan could still work for Shepard. Vigil, its energy reserves finally depleted after 50 millennia of faithful watch, wished Shepard luck and faded into silence. There was no time to mourn the last Prothean. Saren was already at the Conduit, a shimmering, unstable mass relay hidden in the heart of the Elos research complex.
Shepard and their squad raced through the final corridors, engaging in a frantic running battle with Geth primes and Krogan warriors. They reached the conduit chamber just moments after Saren had passed through it. Without hesitation, Shepard ordered the Mako, their all-terrain vehicle, to charge into the energy field, taking a blind leap of faith into the unknown. The transition was jarring, a violent lurch through space-time. They emerged not in open space, but crashing into the Presidium, the pristine public hub of the Citadel. Panic erupted as the Mako skidded to a halt amidst the tranquil plazas and fleeing civilians. At the same time, alarms blared across the station. A look out of the station's massive windows revealed a terrifying sight. The Citadel's arms had closed, sealing it off from the outside, and a colossal, terrifying ship, Sovereign, was latched on to the Citadel tower like a parasite. The Geth fleet, thousands strong, poured out of the relay network, launching a full-scale surprise attack on the Citadel fleet, which was caught completely off guard. The battle for the Citadel had begun. Saren was somewhere ahead, racing towards the council chambers at the top of the tower, where the station's master controls were located. Shepard's path was clear. They had to fight their way up the tower through legions of Geth and Saren's indoctrinated Asari commandos to stop him before he could give Sovereign full control. The final confrontation was at hand, a desperate battle in the corridors of power, with the fate of every living being in the galaxy hanging on its outcome. The Mako, battered but functional, charged forward, its cannons clearing a path through the synthetic tide.
The ascent up the Citadel Tower was a brutal, relentless climb. Geth dropships continuously reinforced the enemy ranks, their metallic bodies dropping from the sky and crashing through the station's elegant glass ceilings. Shepard, flanked by their two most trusted squad mates, pushed forward with a desperate urgency. Every corridor was a new firefight, every plaza a new battlefield. The voices of the Alliance fleet, led by Admiral Hackett, crackled over the comms, a chaotic symphony of battle reports and dying screams. The Citadel fleet was in disarray, being torn apart by the surprise Geth assault. Finally, they reached the council chambers. The room was dark, the emergency lights casting long, dancing shadows. Saren was there, waiting, but he was changed. His body was now a horrific fusion of organic tissue and synthetic components, wires and metal grafted onto his flesh. He was no longer just indoctrinated. He was a willing vessel for Sovereign's power. He spoke with a chilling duality, his own voice mixed with a cold, metallic resonance. He truly believed the Reapers were salvation, that submission was the only way for organic life to survive. He saw his actions not as treason, but as mercy. The final confrontation began. Saren was faster, stronger, and more powerful than ever, augmented by Reaper technology. He moved with an unnatural speed, leaping across the chamber, firing blasts of energy from his modified cannon.
It was a battle of wills as much as weapons. Shepard could try to reason with him, to break through the layers of indoctrination and force the real Saren to see the horror of what he had become. A skilled orator could even push Saren to realize the depth of his enslavement, leading him to take his own life in a final, defiant act of free will. But even with Saren defeated, the battle was not over. His death triggered a failsafe. Sovereign, using Saren's cybernetically enhanced corpse as a conduit, reanimated his body, turning it into a grotesque, mindless puppet of glowing energy and twisted metal. It was a final, desperate avatar for the Reaper, a last line of defense. As Shepard fought this monstrous effigy, a critical choice was presented by the Alliance fleet. They could open fire on Sovereign, but doing so would mean destroying the Council's flagship, the Destiny Ascension, which was caught in the Reaper's path. Shepard had to make a split-second command decision: save the Council, the leaders of the galaxy, or sacrifice them to focus all fire on the true enemy.
The choice was made in the heat of battle. Whether Shepard chose to save the Council at great cost to the Alliance fleet, or to sacrifice them to ensure Sovereign's destruction, the outcome of the immediate conflict was the same. The combined firepower of the fleet, directed by Shepard's command, hammered into the colossal Reaper. Sovereign, its shields finally collapsing, its organic synthetic body tearing apart under the relentless barrage, was destroyed. Its massive husk, breaking apart into fiery pieces, fell from the Citadel tower, its threat ended forever. With Sovereign's destruction, the Geth fleet, leaderless and disorganized, fell into chaos. The remaining Citadel and Alliance forces rallied, turning the tide of the battle and wiping out the synthetic army. A quiet fell over the comm channels, the sounds of fighting replaced by damage reports and the stunned silence of victory. The battle for the Citadel was over. In the aftermath, Commander Shepard, battered and exhausted, stood before the ruins of the Council chambers. The political landscape of the galaxy had been irrevocably altered. If the Council was saved, they offered humanity a seat at their table, a permanent position of power and respect in gratitude for their salvation. If they were sacrificed, humanity stepped into the vacuum, positioning itself as the new galactic leader, with Ambassador Udina or Captain Anderson chosen by Shepard to guide this new council. Regardless of the political outcome, one thing was certain: Commander Shepard was a hero, the savior of the Citadel. They had hunted down a traitor, exposed a conspiracy, and defeated a god. They had stared into the abyss and fought back. But this was only the beginning. Sovereign was not the only Reaper. It was merely the vanguard. The rest of its kind were still out there, in the dark space between galaxies, waiting. The war was far from over, but for the first time in 50,000 years, the galaxy had a fighting chance, and its champion was a human, a Spectre, a hero named Shepard. 2 years passed. The galaxy, though scarred, enjoyed a fragile peace. The Geth had retreated. Saren was a memory, and Commander Shepard, the hero of the Citadel, stood as a symbol of hope and defiance. Aboard the newly rebuilt SSV Normandy SR-1, Shepard and their crew patrolled the terminus systems, hunting for lingering pockets of Geth resistance. It was routine work, a quiet continuation of the long war. But the quiet was about to be shattered. Without warning, a colossal, unknown vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel, its design unfamiliar, its intentions immediately and horrifyingly clear. A massive energy weapon, a beam of coherent light, tore through the void and slammed into the Normandy. Shields buckled, systems failed, and the ship was ripped apart. Explosions tore through the decks, the sounds of twisting metal and dying crew members echoing over the comms. Shepard, in the thick of the chaos, fought to save their crew, personally guiding their pilot, Joker, to the last escape pod. The Normandy was a lost cause, its spine broken, its engines critical. As Shepard raced for their own escape, a final explosion breached the hull, throwing the commander into the silent, unforgiving vacuum of space. Their suit ruptured, the air hissing out into the void. Shepard's last sight was of their ship, their home, disintegrating into a cloud of fire and debris. Their last sensation was the cold, the silence, and the darkness. Commander Shepard, the hero of the Citadel, the first human Spectre, was dead. But this was not the end of the story. It was merely the end of a chapter. For in the shadows, a powerful and enigmatic organization had been watching. A pro-human group with limitless resources and a controversial agenda. An organization known as Cerberus. They saw Shepard not as a martyr, but as a symbol, an asset too valuable to lose. They found the commander's body, a frozen tomb drifting in the dark, and they began the impossible. They would bring Shepard back. The cost would be astronomical, the technology bleeding edge and forbidden. They called it the Lazarus Project. For the galaxy's greatest hero, death would only be a temporary inconvenience. Darkness, then flashes of light, the scream of alarms, the sensation of pain, of skin knitting itself back together, of bone being rebuilt from dust. For 2 years, this was Commander Shepard's reality, a disembodied consciousness trapped in a storm of reconstruction. They were a ghost, a memory being forced back into a corporeal form. The process was a painstaking fusion of cybernetics and cloned tissue, a project of unprecedented scale and expense, all orchestrated by one individual, the Illusive Man. Shepard's first conscious moments were of chaos. The medical station they were on, a top-secret Cerberus facility, was under attack. Its own security mechs had gone haywire.
Guided by the calm, professional voice of a Cerberus operative named Miranda Lawson, Shepard fought their way through the collapsing station. They were weaker now, their body a patchwork of old scars and new, synthetic flesh. They were a stranger in their own skin. They were soon joined by another Cerberus agent, a loyal soldier named Jacob Taylor. Together, the three of them escaped the doomed facility, Miranda and Jacob explaining the unbelievable truth. Cerberus, the organization Shepard had once fought as a rogue xenophobic cell, had spent billions of credits to bring them back to life. They had resurrected a legend. The reason why was waiting for them. Shepard was brought to a sterile, empty room that transformed around them, the walls dissolving to reveal a breathtaking view of a nearby star. A man sat in a chair, silhouetted against the stellar fire, a cigarette held loosely in his hand. His eyes glowed with a faint blue light, the result of extensive cybernetic modification. He was the leader of Cerberus, the architect of Shepard's rebirth. He was the Illusive Man. He explained the new threat, the reason for Shepard's resurrection. Entire human colonies, all across the Terminus systems, were vanishing. Not raided, not destroyed. The colonists were simply disappearing without a trace, abducted by an unknown force. The Alliance was paralyzed by politics. The Council was turning a blind eye. Only Cerberus was willing to act. And they needed a leader everyone would trust. They needed a hero. They needed Commander Shepard.
The Illusive Man's proposition was unsettling. Cerberus was a known terrorist organization, their methods extreme, their pro-human ideology bordering on supremacist. But the threat was real, and no one else was willing to act. He gave Shepard a new ship, a new crew, and a single, vital mission: find out who was taking the human colonies and stop them. Reluctantly, Shepard agreed. This was not about Cerberus. It was about protecting innocent lives. The new ship was a marvel of starship engineering, a vessel that was eerily familiar. It was the Normandy SR-2, a larger, more advanced successor to the ship that had been destroyed, a ghost rebuilt. At its helm was Joker, Shepard's former pilot, now working for Cerberus, his loyalty to his old commander overriding his distrust of his new employers. The first destination was Freedom's Progress, a recently established colony that had just sent a distress signal before falling silence. Shepard and their new team, Miranda Lawson and Jacob Taylor, landed on the planet to find it eerily deserted. There were no bodies, no signs of a struggle, just an oppressive silence. The investigation revealed what had happened. The colony had been attacked by a mysterious species known as the Collectors. These enigmatic beings, rarely seen in the galaxy, had descended on the colony in a massive insectoid vessel. They had swarmed the settlement, paralyzing the colonists with swarms of seeker drones before carrying their inert bodies away.
They were efficient, methodical, and utterly terrifying. Shepard's team found the last few survivors, including Tali Zora, who was on a mission in the area. The reunion was strained. Tali was shocked to see Shepard alive and horrified to see them working with Cerberus. A collector ship still lingered in orbit, and Shepard's team battled the last of their ground forces, zombified human husks, and strange bipedal insectoids. They fought off a massive collector Praetorian, a floating monstrosity of terrifying power, proving that these new enemies were a formidable threat. The mission was a success, but a grim one. They now had a name for their enemy, the Collectors. But their motives and the identity of the force guiding them remained a mystery. A mystery the Illusive Man was certain was connected to the Reapers.
With a name for the enemy, the mission shifted. The Illusive Man believed the Collectors were a far greater threat than a small team could handle. Shepard needed specialists, the best soldiers, scientists, and assassins in the galaxy. He provided dossiers on a number of potential recruits, a shopping list of dangerous and powerful individuals scattered across the lawless Terminus systems. The first stop was the wretched hive of scum and villainy itself, the space station Omega. Omega was the dark reflection of the Citadel, a lawless asteroid city run by Arya Tlaloc, a powerful Asari matriarch who ruled with an iron fist. On this station, 3 of the galaxy's most powerful mercenary groups, the Blood Pack, the Vorcha, and the Blue Suns, had put aside their rivalries for a single purpose: to eliminate a tactical genius who had been systematically dismantling their operations. They called him Archangel. He had holed himself up in a fortified building, and the mercs were preparing for a final, overwhelming assault. The Illusive Man wanted Archangel on the team. Shepard, posing as a mercenary, signed on for the assault. They infiltrated the mercenary staging grounds and fought their way through the building's outer defenses, intending to reach Archangel and make their offer. When they finally broke through the final door, they found the lone warrior holding the line against impossible odds. It was a face they knew well. Archangel was Garrus Vakarian. The reunion was a moment of relief in the midst of chaos. After Shepard's death, Garrus had tried to bring his own brand of justice to Omega, becoming a vigilante fighting a one-man war against its corruption. He readily agreed to join Shepard's new mission, his loyalty to his old friend unwavering. Together, they fought off the final desperate assault from the mercenaries, a climactic battle that ended with Garrus being severely wounded in an attack by a gunship. Back on the Normandy, Cerberus doctors saved his life, patching him up with cybernetics and leaving him with a few new scars. The first piece of the old team was back together. One renegade Turian ready to finish the fight, no matter the cost. While on the lawless station of Omega, another of the Illusive Man's dossiers pointed Shepard towards a clinic
deep within the station's quarantine zone. The target was a Solarian geneticist and former Special Ops agent named Morden Solus. He was a brilliant scientist, but a troubled one, known for his work on modifying the Krogan genophage, a decision that haunted his conscience. He was now running a clinic on Omega, trying to atone for his past by fighting a plague that was sweeping through the station's poorest districts. Shepard found Morden in the middle of this crisis, a whirlwind of fast-talking, hyper-efficient energy. He agreed to join the mission, but only if Shepard would help him distribute a cure for the plague first. This meant venturing into the heart of the quarantine zone, a hellish slum filled with plague victims driven mad by their sickness, and fighting off mercenaries trying to exploit the chaos. Together, they activated the district's environmental controls, dispersing the cure through the air vents and saving countless lives. Morden, his duty done, brought his formidable scientific and combat skills to the Normandy. The next target was of a different nature entirely. The Illusive man had a lead on a perfect Krogan, a warrior bred in a tank, a being of pure strength and aggression, designed to be the ultimate soldier.
The warlord who had commissioned this creation, Okeer, was located on the toxic world of Corlus. Shepard and their team landed on the planet, fighting their way through a landscape scarred by endless war between rival mercenary bands. They found Okeer in his laboratory, a grim fortress littered with failed experiments. Okeer was a scientist as much as a warlord, obsessed with saving the Krogan from the slow death of the Genophage. He believed the answer was not to cure it, but to create a Krogan so perfect, so strong, that they could overcome it. He agreed to give Shepard his creation, his legacy, in exchange for a favor: eliminating the leader of a rival mercenary faction. Shepard fulfilled the request, only to return and find Okeer dying, poisoned by his own research. His final act was to direct Shepard to the tank containing his perfect warrior. Back on the Normandy, Shepard made the decision to release the Krogan. The being that emerged was powerful, articulate, and without a name. He chose to be called Grunt, and he pledged his loyalty to Shepard, the only leader he had ever known. The next recruit on the Illusive man's list was a powerful but dangerously unstable human biotic, a woman known only as Jack. Her dossier was thin, but her reputation was legendary. She was a notorious criminal, responsible for piracy, kidnapping, and murder. The Illusive man had tracked her to a prison ship called the Purgatory, run by the Blue Suns mercenary group. Cerberus had paid for her transfer, but the warden of the Purgatory had double-crossed them, intending to keep his infamous prisoner. Shepard and their team boarded the Purgatory, a flying fortress of a prison, and fought their way through legions of Blue Suns mercs. They finally reached Jack's cryogenic cell, deep within the ship's bowels. When they released her, they unleashed a storm.
Jack was a whirlwind of biotic power and rage, tearing through the remaining guards with a terrifying force. She was a weapon in human form, her body covered in tattoos, her attitude a mixture of raw aggression and deep-seated trauma. Her past was a horror story. She had been abducted as a child by Cerberus and raised in a secret facility, subjected to horrific experiments designed to enhance her biotic abilities. Her power was born from pain. Her hatred for Cerberus was absolute, and her presence on the Normandy created immediate tension. But she agreed to join the mission against the Collectors, seeing it as a chance to kill something other than her own demons.
In stark contrast, the next target was a model of calm and spiritual focus. On the elegant Asari world of Ilium, Shepard sought out Thane Krios, a Drell assassin who was rumored to be the most skilled killer in the galaxy. Unlike other assassins, Thane was deeply spiritual, viewing his work as a grim necessity and praying for his victims after each kill. Shepard learned that Thane had come out of retirement for one final contract: to eliminate a corrupt corporate leader named Nasana Dantius. Shepard intercepted Thane during his mission, helping him navigate a skyscraper and bypass Nasana's heavily armed guards. They cornered their target together, and Shepard witnessed Thane's unique methods firsthand. He was a ghost, a silent predator. After the target was eliminated, Thane revealed his secret. He was dying from Keprel syndrome, an incurable Drell respiratory disease. He had little time left and wanted his final days to have meaning. A suicide mission against a foe threatening the entire galaxy was to him a worthy end. He joined Shepard's crew, a quiet, contemplative killer seeking redemption at the end of his life.
The search for specialists continued, leading Shepard to a planet on the edge of the Terminus systems called Haestrom. The planet's sun was aging rapidly, bathing the world in deadly radiation that destroyed shields and cooked electronics. Here, on this dying world, the Illusive man had located Tali Zora, who was leading a Quarian Marine team on a mission of vital importance. Shepard landed on Haestrom, the sun's radiation a constant, pressing threat, forcing them to move from shadow to shadow. The planet was overrun with Geth, who seemed to be studying the sun for unknown reasons. Shepard fought through the Geth forces, including a massive Geth colossus, to reach Tali's position. She and the sole survivor of her team were pinned down, their environmental suits failing. Tali explained that her mission was to gather data on the sun's rapid decay, research that could help the Quarians in their war against the Geth. After a tense battle to secure her research data from the Geth, Tali agreed to join Shepard's mission. Her expertise on the Geth was invaluable, but her reasons were also personal. She felt a deep loyalty to her former commander and believed the threat of the Collectors was too great to ignore. Her presence, however, like Jack's, caused friction. Miranda Lawson saw Tolly as a security risk, a member of a species known for scavenging technology.
Back on the commerce world of Ilium, another dossier led Shepard to seek out an Asari Justicar, a member of an ancient monastic order of warrior monks who lived by a strict black and white moral code. Her name was Samara. Justicars were judge, jury, and executioner, wandering the galaxy to right wrongs and punish the wicked. Samara was on the trail of her own daughter, Morinth, a powerful and dangerous Ardot Yakshi, an Asari with a rare genetic disorder that caused her to kill her mates during psychic union. Shepard helped Samara track her fugitive daughter through the decadent nightlife of Ilium. The hunt led them to a climactic confrontation in Morinth's apartment. Shepard had to act as bait, luring Morinth in and resisting her powerful psychic seduction long enough for Samara to intervene. The final choice was stark: help Samara uphold her code and execute her own daughter, or betray Samara and help the alluring but deadly Morinth escape, allowing her to take Samara's place on the Normandy. It was a choice between unyielding justice and dangerous freedom, another moral test in a mission full of them. With a skilled team of specialists now assembled, the Illusive Man sent the Normandy to the human colony of Horizon. It was a test, a chance to see how this newly formed crew of misfits and killers would perform together. The colony had just been attacked by the Collectors. This time, however, Shepard would not be arriving at a silent, empty settlement. The attack was still in progress. The Normandy dropped out of FTL into a chaotic scene. The massive collector ship was latched onto the colony, its swarms of seeker drones descending on the panicked colonists, paralyzing them where they stood. Shepard and their team landed in the Mako and charged into the heart of the battle, fighting their way through legions of collector troops and scions, horrific amalgamations of multiple husks, to reach the colony's defense towers. The plan was desperate. The Collectors were unlike any enemy Shepard had faced before. They were controlled remotely by a leader they called Harbinger, which could possess any one of them on the battlefield, turning a simple drone into a super-powered, regenerating killing machine that taunted Shepard with chilling personal threats. It knew Shepard, knew their history, and seemed to be testing them. As they fought their way to the final defense controls, Shepard came face to face with a familiar figure. The Vermeer survivor, either Kaiden Alenko or Ashley Williams, was here, working with the Alliance to defend the colony. The reunion was bitter. They were horrified to see Shepard working with Cerberus, the enemy they had fought for so long. They accused Shepard of betraying their principles, of selling their soul. There was no time to explain, no time to mend the broken trust. Shepard managed to activate the cannons,
which fired a massive blast that struck the collector ship, forcing it to retreat. Horizon was saved, but only just. Many colonists had still been taken. The victory felt hollow, tainted by the distrust of an old friend and the chilling realization that the collectors were being controlled by something far more intelligent and malevolent. Harbinger was watching, and this was only the beginning of his game.
The battle on Horizon provided a crucial piece of intelligence. The collectors were protecting a specific region of space, a nebula known as the Iota Cluster. The Illusive man believed the key to their defeat lay within. He directed Shepard to a derelict Reaper, the very same one that had been defeated at the Battle of the Citadel years ago. Now a dead, silent husk drifting in the void. A Cerberus science team had been sent to investigate it, but had gone silent. The Normandy approached the dead god, a chilling sight. The Reaper was impossibly large, its organic synthetic form scarred from the battle that had ended its reign. Shepard and their squad boarded the derelict. The interior, a strange alien landscape of metal and decaying organic tissue. The air was thick with a sense of profound wrongness. They found the Cerberus team, all dead, their bodies twisted and contorted. It was a trap. The collectors had lured them here. The derelict Reaper was not entirely dead. Its Mass Effect core was still active, and the collectors had rigged it to a trap. As Shepard's team made their way through the massive corpse, they were ambushed by collector forces. The battle was a claustrophobic, desperate fight for survival within the guts of their ancient enemy. They fought their way to the Reaper's core, a massive, glowing sphere of energy, where they discovered the collector's goal. They were harnessing Reaper technology to build their own ships and weapons. Shepard managed to fight off the collectors and retrieve the data they needed. A Reaper Identify Friend or Foe tag. The Reaper IF was the key to traversing the Omega-4 relay, a notoriously dangerous mass relay that destroyed any ship that attempted to pass through it. It was the gateway to the collector homeworld, a place from which no ship had ever returned. As they escaped the derelict, they set explosive charges, intending to destroy the Reaper once and for all. But the collectors had one last surprise. They remotely activated the Reaper's Mass Effect core, creating a massive energy surge that nearly destroyed the Normandy as it fled. They had the IF, the key to ending the war, but they had also stirred the hornet's nest. The collectors now knew that Shepard was coming for them. The Reaper IF was a prize of immense value, the key to taking the fight to the enemy's home turf. But it came with an unexpected bonus.
During the escape from the derelict Reaper, Shepard's team had disabled a Geth trooper that was unlike any they had seen before. It was a unique platform, more advanced and independent than the standard Geth. Back on the Normandy, Miranda Lawson argued for selling the inactive Geth to Cerberus for analysis. It was, after all, their property. But Shepard saw another option. The Geth had a hole blown clean through its chest, but its memory core might still be active. The commander made the choice to activate it. The Geth unit came online, its single glowing optic focusing on Shepard. It did not attack, it spoke. It explained that it was not like the Geth that had followed Saren. Those were heretics, a splinter faction that had embraced the Reapers as gods. This Geth was part of the true Geth consensus, the vast majority of its people who wanted nothing to do with the Reapers and sought a future of their own, separate from organics. This Geth unit was a unique platform, a mobile consciousness containing 1,183 individual Geth programs, designed to venture into organic space, to understand them. It had been tracking Shepard, the organic who had destroyed a Reaper. When asked for its name, it replied that it had none. It was a legion of programs, a multitude contained within a single vessel. So Joker, with his characteristic wit, gave it one, Legion. Legion's presence on the Normandy was a source of extreme tension. Tali, Aquarian, whose people had been driven from their homeworld by the Geth, saw it as a mortal enemy. The rest of the crew saw a walking, talking time bomb. But Legion provided an invaluable, unprecedented perspective. It explained the Geth schism, their history, and their desire for self-determination. It viewed its mission with Shepard as a logical extension of its own, to fight the heretics and their Reaper gods. For the first time, an alliance between organic and Geth seemed possible. Shepard now had a machine on a mission to save mankind, a powerful and strange new ally for the battle ahead.
While Shepard and the ground team were away securing the loyalty of their new Geth ally, Legion, the Normandy was left in the command of its pilot, Joker. The new Reaper IFF was being installed into the ship's systems, a process that required a full system reboot. It was a moment of vulnerability, a weakness the enemy had been waiting for. The IFF, a piece of Reaper technology, had a backdoor, and the collectors used it. A massive collector vessel ambushed the Normandy. With its main systems offline and its commander away, the ship was a sitting duck. The collectors boarded, swarming through the decks. Joker, refusing to abandon the ship, was guided by the Normandy's AI, Edai, who had been unshackled from her programming limitations to help him. He limped through the ship, dodging collector patrols in a desperate attempt to restore Edai's control over the vessel. But it was too late. The collectors were not there to destroy the ship.
They were there for its crew. They moved through the decks with a terrifying efficiency, paralyzing every member of the Normandy's support staff, from the engineers in the drive corps to the cooks in the mess hall. They were all captured, taken alive, and spirited away to the collector ship. By the time Joker managed to restore Edai's control and fend off the remaining boarders, the damage was done. The Normandy was empty.
Shepard and their squad returned to a ghost ship. The only ones left were Joker and ED. The entire crew, the people who had supported them, maintained their ship, and trusted them with their lives, were gone. A grim message from the Illusive Man confirmed their fears. The crew had been taken through the Omega-4 relay. They were almost certainly destined for the same fate as the millions of colonists who had vanished. Every moment of delay meant a lower chance of survival. The Illusive Man advised caution to gather the rest of the team, but the choice was Shepard's. The suicide mission was no longer an abstract concept. It was personal, and it had to happen now. The moment had come. The Normandy, now a hauntingly empty vessel, stood ready. The crew was gone. The stakes were absolute. This was a rescue mission, a vengeful strike against an unknowable foe in their own territory. It was, by every definition, a suicide mission. Before making the final jump, Shepard made their final rounds, speaking to each member of their hand-picked squad. The conversations were heavy with unspoken gravity. They spoke of loyalty, of redemption, of finding meaning in a final, desperate act. Grunt sought a worthy death. Thane was already dying, and Legion saw the mission as a logical absolute. Each member, a killer, a misfit, a renegade, was ready to follow Shepard into hell. With a final command, Shepard ordered Joker to take them in. The Normandy turned towards the swirling, violent vortex of the Omega-4 relay. The ship shuddered as it entered the relay, the IFF system glowing, fighting against the relay's destructive energies. Debris from ships that had failed to make this passage scraped against the hull, a graveyard of failed attempts. But the Normandy held. It broke through into the eerie, chaotic space of the collector home system, a cosmic maelstrom surrounding a massive black hole. They had arrived at the heart of the enemy's power, the collector base, a colossal structure built into a massive asteroid, crawling with collector vessels. As the Normandy began its approach, the base's defenses opened fire. The ship was battered by enemy attacks. The survival of the Normandy itself now depended on the upgrades Shepard had invested in. A weak hull would be breached, a poor shield would collapse, an inferior cannon would fail to clear a path. If Shepard had failed to prepare,
Members of their squad would die before they even set foot on the station. But the Normandy, upgraded and resilient, pushed through the storm. It crashed, battered but intact, onto the surface of the base. The ramp lowered, and Shepard stood before their team. The time for talk was over. They had made it through the fire. Now they had to walk into the flames. The assault on the Collector base had begun.
The interior of the Collector base was a nightmarish fusion of alien technology and organic material. It was a hive pulsing with a malevolent energy. The abducted crew of the Normandy was here, somewhere, being held in pods, their life force slowly being drained. Shepard had to make a series of critical tactical decisions, assigning members of their squad to specialized tasks. Each choice carried the weight of life and death. The first task was to navigate a series of hazardous ventilation shafts to open a path forward. Shepard had to choose a tech specialist, someone like Tali or Legion, who could hack the complex systems. A poor choice would result in the specialist being incinerated by the station's defenses. Once through, another choice loomed. A second fire team was needed to create a diversion, led by a capable leader like Garrus or Miranda. An inexperienced leader would be overwhelmed, their team lost to the Collector swarm. The path forward led through a long, exposed walkway, where the team was beset by seeker swarms. A powerful biotic was needed to generate a protective shield to escort the team across. A biotic like Samara or Jack could hold the shield, but it required immense concentration and power. If their will faltered for even a second, a member of the squad would be carried away into the darkness by the seeker drones. Every step was a new test, not just of combat skill, but of Shepard's leadership and their knowledge of their team's strengths and weaknesses. The bonds forged through loyalty missions, the trust earned in quiet conversations, now paid off in blood and survival. Squadmates who felt a true loyalty to their commander fought with greater strength, their resolve hardened. Those whose trust had not been fully earned were more likely to falter, to make a fatal mistake. Shepard pushed their team onward, deeper into the hive. The lives of their crew and their squad resting squarely on the commander's shoulders. The fate of the mission was being decided not by bullets, but by trust. After a harrowing journey through the Collector base, Shepard's team finally reached the central chamber. The sight that awaited them was one of pure cosmic horror. In the center of the massive chamber, suspended by tubes and conduits, was a colossal larval creature,
a grotesque mockery of a human form being constructed from metal, wires, and a sickening, molten biological paste. This was the Collector's ultimate goal. This was the fate of the millions of abducted human colonists. They were being melted down, their genetic material, their very essence being used as raw material to build a new Reaper, a human Reaper. The remaining members of the Normandy crew were here, still alive, held in pods lining the chamber, about to be fed into the machine. Shepard's team fought frantically to free them, just as the larval Reaper awakened, its single glowing eye fixed on them, and a voice echoed through the chamber, the cold, arrogant voice of Harbinger. It was not just a machine. It was the beginning of a new god, an entity of immense power.
The final battle began. The human Reaper, still connected to its umbilicals, fought with a terrifying fury. It fired massive energy beams, smashing the platforms the team used for cover. Collector troops poured into the chamber, a desperate final defense of their monstrous creation. Shepard had to target the creature's weak points, the suspension tubes that fed it power and raw material, all while fending off endless waves of Harbinger's possessed minions. It was a battle against impossible odds, a fight against a nascent god in its own cathedral of horrors. One by one, the suspension tubes were shattered. The human Reaper, starved of its power source, began to collapse under its own immense weight. With a final, explosive effort, Shepard and their team delivered the killing blow. The monstrous fusion of man and machine fell, crashing into the abyss below, its unholy purpose left unfulfilled. They had saved the crew. They had stopped the Collectors. But the sight of what the Reapers were capable of, what they planned for humanity, was a horror that would be burned into their minds forever. With the human Reaper destroyed and the surviving crew evacuated to the Normandy, one final task remained. The Collector base itself was a treasure trove of advanced technology, a direct link to the Reapers. The Illusive man contacted Shepard, his voice calm and urgent. He ordered Shepard to preserve the base. He argued that the technology within could be used against the Reapers, that destroying it would be a foolish waste of a priceless strategic asset. He wanted Shepard to detonate a timed radiation pulse, enough to kill the remaining Collectors, but leave the station intact for Cerberus to study. But Shepard's squad mates argued vehemently against it. They saw the base for what it was, an abomination, a place of immense evil. They believed the technology was too dangerous, too corrupting to ever be used by humanity. They urged Shepard to destroy it completely, to rig the station's core to explode and wipe this stain from the galaxy forever. It was Shepard's final choice in this long and bloody mission. To trust the Illusive man and seize a power that could corrupt them, or to destroy the base and forsake a potential advantage in the war to come. Whatever the decision, the path was set. Shepard planted the charges and raced back to the Normandy, fighting through the last desperate remnants of the Collector forces. They lifted off just as the base either erupted in a cleansing fireball or was bathed in a sterilizing pulse of radiation. The suicide mission was over. They had done the impossible. But as the Normandy jumped away, a final chilling scene unfolded in the silent darkness of deep space. A vast fleet of colossal sentient machines, each one a sovereign, stirred from their slumber. The Reapers, ancient and patient, turned their gaze towards the Milky Way. They were awake. They were coming. The victory at the Collector base had not ended the war. It had simply fired the starting gun. Humanity had proven it was a threat, and now the full harvest would begin. 6 months after the destruction of the Collector base, Commander Shepard found themselves in a gilded cage. For choosing to destroy the base and severing ties with Cerberus, Shepard was stripped of command and confined to an Alliance facility on Earth, a hero grounded by the very people they fought to protect. The galaxy once again chose to ignore the warnings. The Council dismissed the Collector threat as an isolated incident, and the evidence of the Reapers was buried under layers of political denial. Then the whispers became a roar. In the outer colonies, reports trickled in of entire fleets vanishing, of communications going dark. The warnings Shepard had screamed for years were finally coming true. And then they came for Earth. The invasion was swift, brutal, and absolute. The sky burned. Colossal, squid-like machines, each miles long, descended from orbit. Their energy weapons boiling away oceans and leveling cities in seconds. The Reapers had arrived. Shepard was there, on the ground, as the world fell. They fought alongside their old mentor, Captain Anderson, in a desperate, doomed attempt to rally a defense. The scale of the Reapers' power was unimaginable. They were not just an army, they were a force of nature, a galactic extinction event in motion. Their foot soldiers were monstrous amalgamations of the species they had harvested in cycles past, a horrific menagerie of twisted flesh and metal. In the chaos, Anderson enacted a desperate plan. He reinstated Shepard, ordering them to leave Earth, to go to the Citadel and rally the rest of the galaxy for aid. He would stay behind to lead the resistance, to buy Shepard the time they needed. In a heart-wrenching farewell, Shepard and the Virmire survivor, who had been stationed on Earth,
fought their way to the Normandy, which swooped in for a daring rescue. As the Normandy ascended, Shepard looked back at a world engulfed in flames. They had been right all along, and their reward was a front-row seat to the apocalypse. The mission was no longer about warnings, it was about survival. And hope was in short supply.
Leaving a burning Earth behind, Shepard's first destination was Mars. Liara T'Soni, now the galaxy's foremost expert on the Protheans, had discovered something in the planet's ancient archives. A discovery that could change the course of the war. Shepard and their team arrived at the Mars facility to find it under attack. But the attackers were not Reapers. They were Cerberus. The Illusive man had changed. He no longer saw the Reapers as a threat to be destroyed, but as a power to be controlled. He had begun experimenting with Reaper technology, indoctrinating his own soldiers, turning them into enhanced cybernetic puppets. He believed he could harness the Reaper's power and use it to elevate humanity to its rightful place as rulers of the galaxy. He was no longer a misguided patriot. He was a fanatical, indoctrinated pawn of the enemy.
Shepard fought through the Cerberus forces and rendezvoused with Liara. She revealed what she had found: Prothean schematics for a superweapon, a massive device designed specifically to destroy the Reapers. They called it the Crucible. The plans were incomplete, but the concept was sound. It was the galaxy's only hope, a desperate, last-ditch effort from a long-dead civilization. As they secured the data, they were confronted by the Illusive man himself via hologram. He demanded the plans, convinced he could use the Crucible to control the Reapers. Shepard refused, and after a tense firefight with new, powerful Cerberus phantoms and a final, narrow escape, they fled Mars with the data intact. Their next stop was the Citadel. But the station was no longer the beacon of hope it once was. It was now a refugee camp, overflowing with panicked citizens from 100 worlds, all fleeing the Reaper advance. The Council, finally confronted with the reality they had so long denied, was paralyzed with fear and indecision. The task fell to Shepard, to convince a fractured, terrified galaxy to unite, to put aside ancient hatreds and build the Crucible together, before there was nothing left to save.
The Crucible was a monumental undertaking, requiring the combined resources and industrial might of the entire galaxy. To build it, Shepard needed armies and fleets, and that meant forging alliances where none existed. The first, and perhaps most crucial alliance, was with the Krogan. Their peerless warriors were desperately needed on the front lines, but their leadership, the powerful warlord Urdnot Rex, would not commit his people to die for a galaxy that had left them to rot. He had one price: a cure for the Genophage.
The task seemed impossible. The Salarians, one of the creators of the Genophage, were vehemently opposed to a cure, fearing a new Krogan rebellion. The Turians, who had deployed the weapon, were desperate for Krogan aid in their own fight against the Reapers, and were willing to consider it. The fate of the Krogan people rested on a political knife's edge. The mission took Shepard to the Krogan homeworld of Tuchanka. A Salarian scientist had developed a potential cure, but it had to be dispersed from a massive Prothean tower known as the Shroud. The air on Tuchanka was thick with political tension and the dust of a dying world. Shepard stood with Rex, the young Krogan warrior Grunt, and a legendary female Krogan named Eve, a survivor of horrific Salarian experiments, as they prepared for the final ritual.
But there was treachery afoot. The Salarian counselor revealed to Shepard in secret that the Shroud had been sabotaged to prevent any cure from working. She urged Shepard to let the deception play out, to gain the Krogan army without actually giving them a future. Shepard was faced with a terrible choice: lie to their friend Rex, dooming his people to a slow extinction while securing their army, or reveal the sabotage, cure the Genophage, and risk alienating the Salarians and their powerful fleets. Choosing honesty, Shepard revealed the plot. The journey to the Shroud became a frantic race against time, fighting off Reaper forces who had descended on Tuchanka, drawn by the conflict. In a climactic confrontation, Shepard and their team held the line against a full-sized Reaper destroyer, buying just enough time for the cure to be dispersed. As the cure washed over Tuchanka, bringing the promise of new life, the Krogan roared in triumph. An ancient wrong had been righted. Shepard had secured the might of the Krogan, but the cost and the consequences of a resurgent Krogan empire remained to be seen. With the Krogan pledged to the war effort, Shepard turned their attention to another ancient conflict. The Quarian migrant fleet, seeing the galactic chaos as an opportunity, had launched a full-scale assault to retake their homeworld, Rannoch, from the Geth. This conflict was a disaster, wasting ships and lives that were desperately needed in the war against the Reapers. Shepard had to intervene and broker a peace. The mission brought Shepard aboard the Quarian fleet, where they reunited with Tali'Zorah. The Quarian leadership was divided, with some admirals advocating for total war, and others hoping for a peaceful solution. Shepard was joined by Legion, the Geth platform, whose presence on a Quarian vessel was an act of extreme diplomatic risk. Together, they made a shocking discovery. The Geth were not the aggressors. They were being controlled and augmented by the Reapers, who had established a control signal on Rannoch. To break the Reapers' hold, Legion proposed a dangerous plan. Shepard would have to physically enter the Geth Consensus, a virtual server space where all Geth minds were connected.
and manually purge the Reaper corruption. Inside the Geth server, Shepard witnessed the secret history of the Geth-Quarian War from the Geth perspective, learning that the Geth had never wanted to drive their creators away, but had been forced to defend themselves. After clearing the Reaper virus, a new crisis emerged. Legion revealed that the Geth, to fight on an equal footing with the Reapers, needed to upgrade their intelligence. Using the Reaper code, they could elevate every Geth program from a simple VI to a true self-aware AI. But the Quarians, seeing this as a terrifying escalation, prepared to destroy the Geth fleet. Shepard was on the surface of Rannoch, facing a targeting laser from the Quarian fleet, with Legion ready to upload the code. They had to make a final, impossible choice. Allow Legion to upload the code, giving the Geth true consciousness, but forcing the Quarians to attack and be annihilated. Or side with the Quarians, allowing them to destroy the Geth, forever wiping out a nascent species. A third path, a path of peace, was possible only with the trust and reputation Shepard had built. By brokering a ceasefire, Shepard could save both races, who would then pledge their combined fleets to the war effort. It was a monumental achievement, the birth of a new alliance, and a quiet moment of hope in a galaxy tearing itself apart.
With the might of the Krogan and the combined Quarian and Geth fleets pledged to their cause, the Crucible was nearing completion. But it was missing a final, critical component, the catalyst. The schematics were maddeningly vague on its nature, but Liara discovered that information on it was hidden away on the Asari homeworld of Thessia. Shepard raced to the planet, hoping to retrieve the data before the Reapers arrived. They were too late. Thessia, the jewel of the galaxy, a world of art and culture that had never known war, was burning. The Reapers had descended in force, and the planet was falling. Shepard and their team fought their way through the ruined capital to an ancient temple, where the secret was kept. There they found the last piece of the puzzle, a Prothean VI. But they were ambushed by Cerberus forces, led by a deadly new assassin named Kai Lang. In the ensuing battle, the VI was destroyed, but not before it revealed the shocking truth. The catalyst was not a thing. It was the Citadel. The Illusive man had known all along. He had moved the Citadel to Earth's orbit, intending to use it to control the Reapers when they arrived. Now, the final battleground was set. The Alliance and its new allies formulated a desperate plan. They would launch a full-scale assault on the Reaper forces in Earth's solar system, a final massive battle to create an opening for Shepard to get to the Citadel. But first, they had to cripple Cerberus. Using intelligence gathered from the Vermeer survivor, Shepard located the Illusive man's command center, Kronos Station, hidden in a treacherous nebula. Shepard led a small elite squad in a lightning-fast assault on the base. They fought through the Illusive man's most loyal troops and discovered his darkest secret. He was studying and indoctrinating refugees, including humans, to perfect his control methods. At the heart of the station, Shepard confronted Kai Lang one last time, finally ending the assassin's reign of terror. They also recovered the Prothean VI's data, which confirmed that the Crucible, once connected to the Citadel, could be activated. They confronted the Illusive man via hologram one last time, his face now cracked and scarred by Reaper indoctrination, his mind lost to their influence. With Cerberus's leadership in shambles and the final plan in place, Shepard returned to the Allied fleet. All ships from every race Shepard had united gathered for the final jump. The destination? Earth. The combined fleets of the galaxy dropped out of FTL into the Sol system, and the final, desperate battle for Earth began. The space around the planet was a maelstrom of fire and chaos. Turian frigates flew alongside Krogan dreadnoughts. Quarian live ships fought back-to-back with Geth cruisers, and the human Alliance fleet led the charge. It was a sight of unity and hope that the galaxy had never before witnessed. Their goal was singular: to protect the Crucible as it was moved into position, and to clear a path for Commander Shepard to reach the Citadel. On the surface, London had become the focal point of the ground war. A powerful Reaper energy beam was firing from the ground up to the Citadel, the only way onto the station. Anderson and the last remnants of the human resistance were holding the line, waiting for Shepard. The commander and their squad landed in the heart of the ruined city, the ground shaking with the footfalls of colossal Reapers. The push towards the beam was a meat grinder, a relentless kilometer-by-kilometer struggle through the rubble-choked streets. They fought alongside Alliance Marines, battling endless waves of Reaper ground forces. Husks, cannibals, marauders, and the terrifying, towering brutes. The air was filled with the screams of the dying and the thunderous, deafening sound of Reaper horns. It was hell on Earth. Throughout the battle, Shepard made final, heart-wrenching goodbyes to their crew and allies over the comms, each one a potential last conversation. The Normandy provided air support, Joker's voice a familiar presence in the chaos. The Allied war assets Shepard had gathered, from the Rachni Queen's armies to the commando teams trained on the Citadel, all came into play, fighting and dying to clear the way. The final push was a desperate, suicidal run across an open plaza, directly into the path of a Reaper destroyer known as Harbinger, the same entity that had controlled the Collectors.
It unleashed a devastating blast from its main cannon. Shepard was caught in the explosion, their armor shattered, their body broken. But they survived. Wounded, bleeding, and barely able to walk, Shepard crawled, then staggered towards the light of the beam. Their pistol, the only thing they had left. This was the end of the line. One last effort for everything.
Shepard stumbled out of the energy beam and into the silent, sterile corridors of the Citadel. The station was damaged, littered with the bodies of Alliance soldiers and Cerberus troops. Here, at the end of all things, they met Captain Anderson. They had both made it, but they were not alone. The Illusive man was there, waiting in the control room, his body now almost entirely consumed by Reaper technology. He held Anderson at gunpoint, his mind completely gone, a mere puppet of the Reapers. He still believed he could control them. A final, tense standoff ensued. Shepard, using every last ounce of their strength and conviction, had to break through the Illusive man's indoctrination. They could force him to see that he was enslaved, that the Reapers were controlling him, not the other way around. A successful appeal to his humanity would cause him to end his own life. A failed one would force Shepard to kill him, but not before he fatally wounded Anderson. In his dying moments, Anderson looked out at the earth, a soldier finding peace at the end of his watch. With the Illusive man gone, Shepard attempted to activate the Crucible. The platform ascended to the highest point of the Citadel, into a chamber of pure light. There, a new entity appeared. It took the form of the young child Shepard had seen in their nightmares, the ghost of a boy who had died during the initial invasion of Earth. It was the Catalyst. It was an ancient, godlike AI, the creator of the Reapers. It explained its purpose. It had been created by an ancient race to solve the problem of chaos, the inevitable conflict where synthetic life would always rise up and destroy its organic creators. Its solution was the cycle. The Reapers were its instruments of preservation, harvesting advanced organic civilizations at their peak and preserving their essence in new Reapers, bringing order to the chaos of existence. It claimed that Shepard, by uniting the galaxy and building the Crucible, had proven its solution to be flawed. It now offered Shepard a new choice, the final, galaxy-altering decision. The Catalyst presented 3 paths. Shepard could choose destruction, firing the Crucible and destroying the Reapers and all synthetic life in the galaxy, including the Geth and EDI. They could choose control, seizing the power the Illusive man had craved, sacrificing their body to become a new intelligence that would command the Reapers.
Or they could choose synthesis, merging all organic and synthetic life into a new hybrid DNA, achieving a perfect understanding and ending the cycle forever. Exhausted and dying, Commander Shepard made their choice, and the galaxy was forever changed.
And so, the Great War came to an end. Commander Shepard's final, impossible choice sent a wave of colored light cascading through the mass relays, a wave of energy that touched every corner of the galaxy. Depending on that choice, the Reapers were either obliterated from existence, their ancient forms falling silent on 1,000 worlds, or they were brought to heal, their immense power now guided by a new, benevolent consciousness. Or they became something more, heralds of a new age where flesh and steel became one. The cost was immense. The worlds were scarred, the fleets were shattered, and billions of lives were lost. But the cycle was broken. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, life in the galaxy was free. Free to evolve, to grow, to make its own mistakes and achieve its own greatness, unburdened by the shadow of a cosmic, predetermined doom. The stories of what came next are whispers on the stellar winds. Stories of the Normandy, crash-landed on a lush, unknown world, its surviving crew stepping out into a new dawn. Stories of cities being rebuilt, of old hatreds giving way to new alliances forged in the fires of war. And at the center of it all, the story of the Commander, a soldier, a hero, a martyr, a legend. A name that would be remembered for all time, a symbol of defiance, of unity, and of the unwavering strength of the human spirit in the face of impossible odds. Shepard's journey was over, but their legacy, the quiet peace they fought and died for, would endure forever. And now, traveler, your own journey for tonight is coming to an end.